Why are men's groups so essential for a man? When I started my journey of becoming a conscious man, I did it through books, I did it through therapy, one-on-one coaching. I made a lot of progress and I learned how to lead in my relationships, set boundaries, get out of my comfort zone. But I actually hit a wall in my growth. And I realize now that I would have failed if I hadn't found a men's group. Welcome to the Nice Guy Show. I am your host, Ari Graff, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Faisal Kokar and Chuck Chapman. The three of us are coaches dedicated to helping nice guys because we are recovering nice guys ourselves. Together, we have decades of experience helping men level up. Our mission is to help men develop the confidence and the skills to get the love, sex, and success they desire. So I discovered the book No More Mr. Nice Guy a few years ago, and I loved the book so much that I decided to look into Dr. Robert Glover's online programs. This was during COVID. So going to an in-person men's group wasn't really an option, and he was doing virtual men's groups. And I'll be honest with you, virtual men's groups did not appeal to me. I mean, how much can you really connect to people on Zoom? But this was COVID. It seemed like my only option, and I didn't know what to expect. So what I found was there were other men going through very similar situations, going through a divorce, dating again. You know, there was so much we could learn from each other, and we could have a whole group supporting each other, not just a one-on-one coach. And we could meet each other's emotional needs. We could challenge each other. We could become friends. And we'd benefit from revealing ourselves to each other, having other people reveal themselves to us, releasing shame, practicing new habits together. So we could learn from each other's journeys and teach each other how to be men. So those are just some of the things that I've gotten out of men's groups over the past few years. So it's really this killer resource. If you're not in a men's group, what are you doing? That's my opinion. Chuck, what was your first men's group experience? Do you agree with me?
I do. Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, Ari, like I've been in men's groups for over 20 years. My first men's group was actually a therapy group that was being led by my counselor. And it was my first introduction into men's work and first introduction into being involved in the lives of other men and creating a deeper connection with other men. Because up to that point, to be honest, like I'd always been kind of afraid of other men. I'd always sort of been intimidated, especially by like the jocks and the alphas and those kind of guys like that. And so being involved in a men's group was one way for me to kind of sort of confront my fear about being in relationships with other men, and B, also just kind of like learn what it's like that I'm not alone, and that I think one of the things that came up for me out of the men's work was that you can often feel like you're the only one that struggles with something because nobody's talking about it. But once you get it out into the open and you realize, oh, I'm not weird, I'm not, different than anybody else, then you start to normalize, what uh, the shame that you've been feeling is not as wrong, but just as normal. So I think it's a powerful place of healing starting in some type of men's group, whether it's an online one, whether it's a coaching group, or whether it's just even starting your own men's group. That's also something that I think is really important. If you can't find one, start one.
What about you, Faisal? What was your first men's group experience? Why do you think it's powerful?
So I have two opinions to it. Yes, it's important, and also I also would say I disagree as well, because it's very easy for us to think that a men's group is going to be really helpful for us. it's not the men's group itself, it's a type of men's group, because there are there are some men's group, there are some groups and organizations which I would say are uh, unhelpful. I've been in both. I've been in both men's group, which has been incredibly powerful, and they've really elevated me. I've also been in some men's group who have been set up, which were dysfunctional, and it was very negative. And what happened was there was a lot of complaining, moaning, and as I say, misery loves company. So there's been both sides and both experiences on that. So it's not just about, is men's group good, because I think there's a lot of aspect of men's work which is critical, and it's, I'm for the men's work, but like, as I say, no matter how thin you slice it, there's going to be two sides to it. So there are some men's group that are dysfunctional, and sets you back. On the other side, what men's group I see that have been, set out with a really strong purpose and led by really good, strong men, have been the most, I would say, life-saving moments, and has given me the greatest value, connection, tribe, and healing for my journey. So it's done both for me aspect.
Well, you're bringing up an important point that not all men's groups are the same, and leadership, I think, is a crucial aspect of it. I don't think a men's group goes as well when it's leaderless. That's something that I'm finding. That doesn't mean that we can't all lead as members of the group, but I do think one or two people has to set the direction and set the tone for the group. I think that's an important part of it. I think you were getting at. So, what are some other important aspects of a men's group for it to work well for people, Chuck?
Well, I think, going back to Faisal's point, that, this is true in anything, whether it's therapy, relationships, there's always a shadow to everything. So the idea is that you want to have discernment to be able to like understand, what it is that you need, and make sure you're getting your needs filled, whether it's with a coach, a therapist, a men's group, or even in your relationships, because not all relationships are good. Not all coaching is good. Not all. So I think it's about like finding, to Faisal's point, finding one that really works well and nurtures you. I think that, some important aspects of finding a men's group are, you have to be able to feel like you can be open and safe, like that I think the first thing is like just being safe, and that feeling like I can share something without being shamed or ridiculed or told that, I'm wrong. And I think that, to your point, Ari, I think especially like starting out, I think you do need a really good leader, somebody who's been doing the work for a while, that knows how to run a group, who knows how to facilitate a group and facilitate the conversations. I do think that you can be in a group that's leaderless. I'm in a couple of groups that are leaderless, but it's all leaders in the group. These are all either coaches and therapists or people that have done a lot of men's work, and that um, what you start to learn as you get deeper into the men's work is that we can share the leadership. Thinking of one group that I'm in particular, we have no leader in the group, but we take on different leadership roles. For example, I'm the one that sends out the reminder. Hey guys, we're meeting today. Here's a link to the Zoom room, that kind of thing. And that's a leadership position, but I'm not the leader of the group. And similarly, the other guys have different roles that they take on. So it's really about like finding what works for you and where you're at in your own personal development. If you're not used to being a leader, then it's good to be in a group where there is a leader. And I think part of the men's group work is eventually you learn to be a leader. You learn to lead yourself. You learn to lead others. And a good men's group will set you up to be a leader.
Absolutely.
So men's groups teach leadership. I think another important thing that they have taught me is about masculinity and what it means to be a man. Um, and I don't think you can learn that as easily one on one. Like I think you need to actually process masculinity as a group. So, what are some other things that are hard to learn one on one or through reading, but that you've gotten from the group format?
Really good point about masculinity, because when here's something I learned about masculinity on my journey as a guy who was raised by women a lot, surrounded by women. I had more feminine energy than I did have masculine energy. And when that happens, how guys show up is that they're more comfortable relating to women. They're easier in women's groups or company. And what they tend to do is they tend to be very central feminine focused, and find anything like of strong masculine characters intimidating. There was a lot of strong men that I found very uncomfortable, because I noticed that my masculine energy was very low. I would just complain or moan at them, say, "Oh, they're just careless, and they're jerks." I kind of labeled them like the women were labeling them. And when I had a coach myself, and he started to help me understand and started helping build my masculine energy, the next kind of like the phase is because I was uncomfortable around really strong, intimidating men, is to become more comfortable around these men and be able to speak up, say my opinion, hold myself. And that's the gift that the men's group can give you, because one, it's in an environment where that they'll call you out, but they'll also challenge you, love you, and support you. They've got your back. They're not ridiculing you and putting you down, because the only group experience I had with men was with guy friends I had. And in that one there wasn't real, each to me, a men's group has to have a central purpose, like a purpose to the group, regardless of whether there's a leader or not, or whether guys you're all leading. But what is the central purpose of that group? Where is it going? And when you have a group of guys, it doesn't have that central purpose. You guys, okay, you might meet because you guys going out, drinking, or whatever it is. Whereas a men's group, where they have a central purpose, hey, we're evolving, we're becoming the integrated man or something. And that's what it really helped me, was to help me, cultivate my own masculinity, be comfortable with other guys, sharing my opinions, and being challenged and being able to stand in, actually, this is what I think, and be okay with that. And that's a gift that you cannot get without men's work and men's group. There's an old saying, a woman can help you grow to be a boy, but she can't help you be a man, because the final frontier is that you're comfortable around other strong men.
Yeah. I always say masculinity bestows masculinity. You can't get something from something that somebody is not, right? And one of the key aspects, I think, to nice guy recovery is that we've got a very strongly developed feminine side. We've got a lot of feminine energy and a feminine body and a feminine way of thinking. And so when we get into nice guy recovery, I think it's really important to have a masculine leader that's teaching you this. I'm probably going to get in a little trouble here, but I actually disagree with some of, Robert will say it doesn't matter, the gender of your therapist or your coach or whatever. And I'm going to say, I think it does matter. There's a lot of coaches out there, especially there's even nice guy coaches out there that are women. And I think the fallback to that is, you end up like trying to please your coach again because she's a woman and she's pretty and you want her attention. And I've had male therapists, I've had female therapists, and I tend to feel more like I'm trying to make my therapist happy if it's a woman, and there's probably going to be things I'm not going to say as a result of that.
Mm.
The thing that I think that a men's group can offer you, though, is that you can't get in, one-on-one. Going back to your point, Ari, is that there's a lot of things experientially that you get in a men's group that you don't get one-on-one. For example, one of the groups I was involved in, or still am involved in, one of the things that we do is we do some grappling, a little bit of wrestling and that kind of thing. And that's part of the process, to be able to kind of like test your strength against another man and feel your strength, your physical strength under, a controlled environment where you're able to be where you're remaining conscious and you're grappling with another man. Sitting around a campfire, you can do that with one other person, but it's a whole lot more fun if you got 4 or 5 guys and you sit around the campfire, maybe do a little singing, maybe there's some drumming involved, something like that. That just kind of brings out that, I think, more of that primal energy, that primal masculine energy than you get when you're just sitting across, a room from one other person. So I think that there's things that you get from a group that you don't get one-on-one. And a lot of those things are experiences. And I think experiences are how we grow, how we grow and change. And when I look back on some of the more significant things that I went through, whether it was a rite of passage or whether it was, the activities in the men's group that I was involved in, the experiences are the ones that I look back and I remembered those the most, and they seem to have more of a dramatic impact on how I show up in the world as a result of those experiences.
And an experience is probably different than just like a one-on-one conversation. I think maybe what you're part of what you're trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, the conversations are great and you can get a lot of help, from somebody just like we're doing here with conversationally, right? But I think we learn also by experience. You can talk about something, and maybe the guys listening to this, or you guys can relate to this as well, is, you're talking to your coach, your therapist, whoever, and you have this great session and then it's over. And then you go out and you do exactly the same thing. You forgot everything that you guys just talked about. And I think when you put experience behind the talking, and that can be practices. One of the things I do in my coaching is I'll often do things with guys to kind of create that experience, whether it's maybe breathing exercises or creating some kind of ritual around that. That there's also an experiential component when I'm doing one-on-one, but I just think it's more powerful. It gets set deeper when it's in person, when it's and you're able to like physically kind of touch, because I think that's the part of the masculine is we're very physical, and when you're sitting across, from somebody else like that, you're not actually engaging. You're just engaging the emotion and the mind and the logic. And I think there's something lost if you're not doing it, embodying it as well.
It's a
Absolutely.
great.
And
Oh, go
it
ahead.
also it's also unnatural to be so isolated ourselves. If our heritage or our tribal, our, as we're tribal people, and we spend a lot of time. If you look at tribes, that they spend, men spend a lot of time with men, women spend a lot of time with women, and that's happened throughout history as well. And that's still a programming in us. And I even know this because I have 2 sons, and as they're becoming older, what I noticed was when they started becoming the teenage, they really wanted and they gravitated towards men, and they wanted to hang around with men. They found men a lot more interesting and fun, and they wanted to, you know, experience what us guys were doing. When they were really young, they spent a lot of time with mom. They loved that naturing, soft stuff. And I think this is what a lot of guys are missing, is that tribal connection, because we need that energy. It's not just about, the cognitive healing that like the conversations that you're having. Yeah, this is good. Here's a message. It's the fact that we're in each other's company, that that this tribe has your back, and just having that emotion of knowing those people are there for you is, again, it's such a feeling of reassurance, strength. And this is what a lot of guys are missing as well.
Yeah, there's a certain tone to a group of men that you won't get with women.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I've been running men's group for myself for 4 years, and Ari's been in one of my masterminds as well. And like Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich, and he said that the most successful men, what they did, successful men and women, that what they had was they had their masterminds, they had group, and they gathered all these minds together to create a super consciousness. And this is the power of a group. Is I've been running my mastermind, and Ari, you've experienced that, the level of it, even myself experiencing the level of conversation with a select few men is incredibly powerful. I also noticed that, I have a men's only group. I've had female speakers come in, therapists, coaches, and they come in. And the one thing I noticed straight away is how the men showed up. There was a instant filter. They weren't saying the things that they would say when it's just us guys. There was a level of approval seeking. I better not say the wrong thing. I better not upset her. There was a complete change of shift in energy, attitude, and the freedom of how they showed up. So this is one of I think the belief that men's group is crucial is because it gives you permission to access parts of you that you don't normally access.
There's a safety and a relaxation that happens.
Yeah, on a permission. It's like when I see
Permission.
one guy, when I see one guy, accessing the part of that liberated self, it gives me the courage. When he's showing up in courage, it gives me the courage. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really amazing. He's saying things that I would be filtered to say. When he's saying them, expressing them in an environment when the guys will say, yeah, I feel the same, or I get it. And then you're thinking, oh, okay, I'm not so alone here. Because there's been many conversations I've had in a mixed environment where the girls have gone, oh, that's completely wrong. And I've been shamed for it. So therefore, because I've been shamed for it, I completely shut off sharing those opinions, because the girls had a different outlook of life, whereas I had a different outlook of life. I'll give you an example. I love playing with, boys. My two kids are really boisterous. They love playing with guns and robbers. They're playing all of that, and they like that danger, the thrill of that. Whereas their mum is very soft, gentle, and she'd be like, "No, don't do that. No, don't do that." And they're like, "Now we want to do this." So, and she's like, "No, that's really bad, and that's wrong." And whereas to me, I was like, actually, that's quite natural for him to express that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when you start to repress that, then it can come out in sort of the toxic ways. If you're not allowed to express, in a safe environment, just even anger or just the physicality of being a man. If you're just always repressing that down as a way to keep the feminine feeling safe and connected, which is what they need. And at the same time, as men, the way that we connect is by doing. Okay. The women sit around and they talk and they get closer. Men, when they're doing something together, like building something, creating something, that's how we tend to bond more as men. And so I think that that's another important aspect of a good men's group is it's not just sitting around talking, but you're actually also doing some things. So you can create a group where maybe you get together, weekly or monthly or whatever, and you talk, but then also sprinkle in there sometimes where like you get away, go camping for the weekend or do something that is more retreat centered. I think those are really, really important aspects of it because as men, we like to do. And I think that that was also something that was missing from my life was I'm very good at emotionally processing, but I was out of balance. And by creating more balance on my masculine and working on that, now it's like, yeah, let's go do something. That sounds like fun. Let's go throw some axes. Let's go, build a spear or something, like that. And just kind of like, masculine, man out on it. Just,
and
There's just
and
something
have
good about
fun.
that. Like we need
Yeah.
to bring this back. Like We've been taught this idea that masculinity, men are toxic and wrong and bad. And the truth is, it's like, yeah, masculinity that isn't trained, like anything else that's powerful, is going to, cause harm. But if you train it and it's good and it's like powerful, it's like, we need more of that.
Maybe one of our next topics should be about toxic masculinity as well. So that would be yeah. And you're so right about fun, because a lot of times, guys that come into my coaching practice, I notice that they're so serious. They lack so much fun. I did the group, men's group I run. I had some of the guys show up in London, and we hired some boats, and we were going up and down the River Thames in London. It was so much fun. They're having such a laugh. The camaraderie that they got from that. They came back and they're saying, "Oh, it was just so much fun." And that's one of the things I noticed, that I did a retreat before. I want to do one with the guys as well. It's the first half, and how I have it pictured is, first half, yes, we'll do some evolution work, growth work, and the second half of the day, let's have some fun. Let's just have some fun.
Yeah. I think we brought up a couple important points. And sometimes I think nice guys are running a fun deficit. That could be a future episode as well. But even just like, I think some nice guys just struggle with things like banter, especially with women, but also they may struggle doing it with other men. And a men's group is a safe place to practice that. You can practice that kind of just natural teasing that men do. So, I mean, I think there's just so many benefits. Another thing that you guys kind of alluded to was just, you see another man going through a struggle, but he's doing something courageous. You benefit from witnessing that, from witnessing someone else's courageous act. So this is why I think men's groups are like a force multiplier. Is that, you benefit too when someone else makes progress. You wouldn't get to see that in a one-on-one coaching or therapy. So, there's so many benefits, and I know it's accelerated my growth. So that's something that I think with some of my clients that I'm seeing one-on-one, I'm seeing them make progress, but there's a wall that they can hit when they're doing their work in a vacuum, and they're alone with it, and other people aren't rooting them on, or other people aren't a model for them. That's something that I'm finding. So, well, we got to wrap up now. Thanks again for being part of the Nice Guy Show. If you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe, because this helps us to reach out to more men who need support. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, make sure to subscribe there as well. Go to niceguyshow.com to get on the mailing list. And if you guys like this podcast, check out episode number 25, Does Therapy Fail Nice Guys? Thanks. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show with certified Nice Guy recovery coaches Ari Graff, Chuck Chapman, and Faisal Kokar. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can listen to our latest episodes, and visit us on www.theniceguyShow.com. If you have any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, send us an email at support@theniceguyShow.com. Thanks for listening.